Emily and Charlotte pleaded with their father, "Please, Papa, don't throw us out of the house. We'll starve. Where will we go?" But their parents refused to listen. On a scorching hot day, they were forced out into the blazing sun, and the door was slammed shut behind them. The two sisters stood on the street with nowhere to turn, no one to help. Years later, those same sisters returned, and what happened next left the entire neighborhood in shock. In the sleepy town of Ashbury, England, the morning mist often lingered over cobblestone streets, curling around wrought-iron lamp-posts and the ivy-covered walls of the old manor houses. Among these ancient homes stood the Whitmore estate, a grand Georgian building that had once been the pride of the town. It was within these walls that Emily and Charlotte Whitmore were born, two daughters into a family obsessed with appearances and tradition. From the very beginning, the sisters' talents were evident. Emily, the elder by 2 years, could sketch and paint with a skill that seemed almost supernatural. By the age of 6, she had transformed the whitewashed walls of her bedroom into a forest alive with creatures and light. Charlotte, on the other hand, was captivated by music. By the age of 7, she could play complex pieces on the grand piano in the drawing room, her fingers moving with precision and passion. Yet their parents, Reginald and Victoria Whitmore, saw neither talent as worthy of encouragement. Reginald, a stern man with a taste for business and property, believed that art and music were frivolities. Victoria, obsessed with social standing and the proper comportment of young ladies, insisted that Emily and Charlotte focus on etiquette, domestic skills, and preparing to marry into respectable families. "You must understand, Emily," Victoria said one afternoon, smoothing the girl's hair as she sketched a portrait of a robin in the garden. "These little drawings of yours will not fill your future, nor our name. You must practice sewing, embroidery. These are the skills that matter for a young lady." Emily, with her paint-stained fingers, looked up and whispered, "But I see things differently, Mother. I want to show them on paper." Victoria's sigh was sharp. "Nonsense. You will put that childish hobby aside. One day you will thank me for it." Charlotte, hearing this, lingered in the doorway, her fingers poised above the piano keys, ready to play a gentle melody. "And music?" she asked quietly. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. "Music is entertainment, Charlotte. You may play, but do not imagine it will matter beyond these walls. Learn proper skills instead." So the girls learned to hide. They painted and played only in secret, in moments stolen from the rigid expectations of their parents. Their talents grew quietly, nurtured by whispered encouragements to each other, rather than by their family. They learned the painful art of invisibility, smiling when praised for nothing, nodding when told their passions were worthless, and retreating to their rooms to create in solitude. Years passed, and Emily and Charlotte left Ashbury to attend universities in London. Emily pursued fine arts at the Royal College of Art, while Charlotte enrolled at the Royal Academy of Music. It was a world away from the suffocating propriety of the Whitmore estate, a world that finally recognized and celebrated their gifts. Emily's paintings were bold, surreal, and emotive. Critics praised the depth and originality of her work, and soon her pieces were exhibited in galleries across Europe. Charlotte's music equally remarkable, won her awards in international competitions, and she became known for her interpretations of both classical and contemporary compositions. Despite the sisters' rising fame, they rarely returned to Ashbury. Memories of cold breakfasts, dismissive parents, and stifling walls lingered like shadows. Yet, as decades passed, the thought of returning to their hometown for a special exhibition in the newly restored Ashbury Gallery could not be avoided. The gallery was hosting a retrospective of Emily's work, a collection that spanned 30 years and included pieces never before seen by the public. Charlotte was invited to perform at the opening night, a piano concerto that would accompany her sister's most celebrated paintings. On the morning of the exhibition, Emily and Charlotte arrived in Ashbury, driving through streets that had remained mostly unchanged. The mist clung to the rooftops just as it had in their childhood, and the town seemed frozen in time. Their childhood home, the Whitmore estate, loomed at the end of the lane, imposing, silent, and foreboding. Inside, the gallery bustled with people, eager to witness Emily's art. The walls were lined with canvases that seemed to breathe life into the room. Charlotte's music began, filling the space with emotion so profound it drew tears from those who listened. Emily watched her sister play, memories flooding back, their secret painting sessions, the stolen moments at the piano, the nights when they dreamt of escaping to a world that appreciated them. Then, unexpectedly, Reginald and Victoria arrived. Frail and gray, their presence was almost ghostly as they hesitated at the doorway, eyes wide at the sight of the crowd and the splendor of Emily's work. "Emily, Charlotte," Victoria's voice quavered, a mixture of awe and uncertainty. Emily turned slowly, meeting her mother's gaze. Charlotte paused in her performance, the final note lingering in the air. For a moment, time seemed suspended, and the years of neglect, disappointment, and silent longing surged between them. "Mother, father," Emily said, her voice calm but firm, "you've come to see what we have done with our lives." Victoria's lips trembled. We never realized. You never encouraged us," Charlotte interjected softly, though with a quiet strength that mirrored her music. "You dismissed us, our passions, our talents, and yet we persisted." Reginald looked down, unable to meet their eyes. Emily stepped closer, her presence commanding, but composed. "I have built an art foundation. Charlotte tours the world performing music, and yet here you are, shocked to see what you could have nurtured, but instead ignored." Victoria's hands clutched at her shawl. We only wanted the best for you." "The best for you was our happiness, our fulfillment," Emily interrupted gently but firmly. "You were blind to what truly mattered." For a long moment there was silence. Then Emily took a deep breath, her gaze softening slightly. "I am offering you a chance, not to erase the past, but to acknowledge it and to try, finally, to connect with us. But it will be on my terms: respect, honesty, and acceptance." The parents, overwhelmed and humbled, nodded slowly. They had underestimated the resilience and brilliance of their daughters, and now, decades later, they were forced to confront the consequences of their neglect. That night, Emily's exhibition opened fully, drawing admirers, critics, and art lovers from across the country. Charlotte performed for the final time that evening, her music weaving through the gallery like a tender, forgiving wind. Emily and Charlotte shared a quiet moment, a smile passing between them. Despite the pain of the past, they had triumphed. They had turned neglect into motivation, silence into expression, and invisibility into a legacy admired worldwide. Reginald and Victoria remained at the edge of the crowd, observing their daughters in awe. For the first time, they understood that talent could not be stifled forever, that love and support were not optional, and that children, when driven by passion, could surpass even the highest expectations. Emily finally approached them, her hand extended. "We are willing to let you be part of our lives again," she said, "but only if you are ready to accept us as we are, with all our successes, failures, and choices, nothing less." Victoria and Reginald reached for her hand, tears filling their eyes. They had ignored the light within their daughters for far too long, but now, perhaps, there was a chance to finally see it, and to see Emily and Charlotte not as the daughters they had failed, but as the extraordinary women they had become. As the night drew on, the sisters stood together, looking out over the gallery filled with art, music, and applause. They had endured neglect, scorn, and invisibility. They had persevered, and now they were finally recognized, not for the approval of those who had doubted them, but for the undeniable brilliance of their own hearts and talents. In the quiet moments after the crowd had departed, Emily turned to Charlotte. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if they had supported us?" she asked softly. Charlotte smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. "I do, but then I remember we would not be who we are without all those challenges. And I like who we are, very much." Emily nodded. "You're right. We didn't just survive. We thrived. And that is ours alone." Outside, the mist had lifted from Ashbury, revealing the soft glow of dawn. The town, like Emily and Charlotte, had witnessed transformation, a reminder that even the longest winters could yield a spring of brilliance and redemption. And in that moment, the sisters knew one immutable truth: talent, determination, and self-belief could shatter walls, break through neglect, and shine far brighter than anything the world, or even parents, could ever try to dim.